to the Homeless in America podcast, hosted by Metro Relief. We're diving into the deep end of homelessness and exploring ways you can help your community. Get ready for relevant stories from the streets with special guests and the leadership of Metro Relief.
Welcome everybody to Homeless in America, and we're talking today with Paul, and it's really his journey through homelessness, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what he dealt with. Today, joining me like most days is Charlie. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. It's exciting to be here. Big day.
You're excited?
I'm excited.
Because we have Paul?
Yes, because we have Paul and we're doing
Good.
a podcast.
Yeah, that is good. I'm glad to have Paul,
I was told
too.
to stress my P's.
Yeah, you need to introduce Paul.
Well, hey, man, everybody. It's exciting you're here today. Paul is the Director of Outreach at Metro Relief, and Austin shared why he's here, but I just wanted to say I've known Paul about 2 years since I started Metro Relief. It's been really cool to watch Paul get better and better as he helps people on the streets. And I wanted to open it up and just say, I looked at your LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
So in 2019, you were a recovery addict. In 2020, you were continuum of care at a place for street outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And you started here in 2021, April.
Yep.
So I'm interested to know how you got sitting here at this table. So we know that part, but I'm looking forward to hear your story.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome, Paul.
Yeah, glad
Thanks
you're
for
here,
having me.
Paul. Yeah.
This
I
is
have
cool.
enjoyed getting to know Paul, too.
Yeah.
He's from the West Coast, so we get to, talk a little bit of West Coast
Yeah,
stuff.
we got to get over that hump, but otherwise the West Coast is all that Huntington hump. It's a specific place in the West Coast, Huntington Beach.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's get started, man. Let's ask you some questions that, what do you do now? What helps you, and why do you do what you do, and what do you do?
Okay, so why do I do what I do? I do what I do, which is help homeless people get off the streets,
Sweet.
help people get into detox, rehab, stuff like that. And the reason why I do that is because I spent about 17 years of my life on drugs and alcohol, and I spent about 10 years on and off the streets. And during that time, I was hopeless. And it just got to that point where I wanted to die. I tried to kill myself a couple times. Couldn't even do that right.
Man.
Praise the Lord. Glad you're here, bro.
The reason I really I want to help people is because I know what that hopelessness is like.
Yeah.
And I know where it can take you. And I know when you're in that position, you don't feel like there is a way out and that there is no hope. So I just feel like since I got sober and since I got my life on track, I feel like it's my duty to let people know that there is hope.
That's awesome.
There is.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to see people come back, like after they've been helped.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't help you. Metro Relief didn't help you, but it was really cool to see that you want to help people now that you're on the other side. So tell us about where you grew up, man.
I grew up in Huntington Beach, California.
That's kind of like one of the better beaches, maybe.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
no?
yeah. It's the best beach.
Yeah, if you're going to be in SoCal, it's not such a bad beach.
Yeah. Yeah. There's worse.
It's way better than Seal Beach.
Well, I mean, they're pretty much the same.
Oh, okay.
They're
Never
like
mind.
attached to each
I like
other.
I like Huntington Beach when you go out in that one neighborhood and overlooks the ocean. And
On the harbor?
yes.
Yeah, man, the harbor's nice.
That's where my wife and I have been a couple times.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is Huntington Beach close to Venice Beach?
No.
Okay.
It's like 45 minutes or so. from
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
All right, tell us about that.
I grew up in Huntington Beach, California, and I had normal. Well, I didn't really have a normal upbringing, but from birth to 8 years old, I had my parents in my life. My mom and my dad were together. My mom was a functioning alcoholic, and my dad was a functioning addict. So, what comes with that, is kind of chaotic sometimes, but I always thought it was normal. When I was 8 years old, my mom and my dad got divorced. And then it was just me and my mom from there on out until I was about 14. Then I lived with my dad for like a half a year. and then he took off to Vegas, and it was just me and my mom from there on out.
Okay. What year was that? In the 90s?
No,
I mean, what year did you graduate?
2000s.
Oh, okay.
I graduated 2005.
Wow.
So it was like it was probably like 97 to
Okay.
yeah, I think 97 was when they got divorced, or 98.
Okay. Cool.
I think it's interesting how we. I'm in recovery, and when I went to treatment a long time ago, I remember they said, "Well, you're a functioning addict," and I never got that because I'm a functioning addict. I'm in rehab. What do you mean? I lost everything. It's interesting how we kind of say if they keep a job.
Yeah,
I guess.
know, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird. Did your mom and dad, were they ever homeless?
No. My dad, he always had a job. He brought home really good money. He really did. He did really good for us. And my mom, she would drink herself to sleep every night, but every morning, like clockwork, 5 a.m., she was up. She never missed a day of work. She had a strong work ethic, and she instilled that in me. And that's why I consider them functioning, because they were crazy and there was some crazy stuff happening. But as far as like outside appearances and finances, and like growing up, I had everything I ever wanted. If I wanted something, me and my dad, we used to go out shooting and riding dirt bikes, and we'd go camping every weekend.
Oh, that's
so I had
great.
a pretty normal life, aside from disputes and stuff like that, domestic stuff that would happen around the house.
When was the first time you ever did drugs? Pot, whatever.
15 years old, or 16, 15 or 16.
It's crazy how we become what we end up being going through. And we didn't, when we first got high, it wasn't like, oh, I get addicted to this. It's like, boom, it just sneaks up on you.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I was, 9 to 15, I was like straight edge. I was all about the Lord. I was in a church in Huntington Beach Community Church, and I actually got
Shout out
all of my friends. I'd get them all to come down and join, and they all joined the youth group, and we had like it was awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was all about it. And somewhere along the lines, they fired our youth pastor, and the head pastor of the church, he ended up converting because we had a whole cool teen room that we all built and had like Nintendo 64s and
Sweet.
TVs and foosball tables, and it was our area. And after
So, bro, you were a leader in the community church group?
Kind of, yeah. I played in the band. I played the bass.
That is awesome.
You played the bass, yeah.
Slapping the bass.
Boom, slapping the bass, yeah. Slapping for the Lord, baby. Yeah. And I brought everyone to that church, and I was just so about it. And after they fired the youth pastor, they turned our youth room into like an actual youth room where it was like for little kids. And we kind of we didn't feel like we belonged at the church anymore. So
Yeah.
I stopped going.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you started using?
And like shortly after, it's
Yeah.
weird how that happens.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't more than like a year later, had my first sip of alcohol. And of course, when I was younger, I had confidence issues, and I was popular or whatever, blah, 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 but I never had confidence. And that first time I took that sip of alcohol, I was like, oh man, I can talk to girls now. I could be myself. Like, this is me. I could be myself for once.
Liquid courage.
Yeah.
Liquid courage,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Yeah. So you started. Whoa! Did I just whistle? So you
I did.
started? Oh, thanks, Charlie. I do look good. That's a joke. So you started drinking about 15, or did you like not get into it heavily? You just had a couple drinks.
Oh no, it was on and cracking from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So I was walking down the street one night, and my buddy
Sounds like
Matt,
a song.
Yeah, my buddy Matt, rest in peace. His sister and her friend were sitting out on the porch of his apartment, and they had a bottle of strawberry Smirnoff.
Oh yeah, that stuff tastes good.
It did, man.
Yeah.
And I came up, I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, oh, we just stole this bottle from Vaughn's. Do you want some? And I'm like, you know
Vaughn's
what?
is a grocery store for you guys that don't
Yeah,
know.
California. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but
I think it's like Ralph's Vaughn.
there's
Yeah, whatever.
Ralph's, Vaughn's, there was Lucky's and
Yeah.
Albertsons, or maybe Lucky's became Albertsons.
Yeah.
But
They're all
yeah,
like one now. Go ahead.
stole a lot of
So
booze.
you sucked down some
Stole a lot of booze from
Stole a lot
Vaughn's.
of booze from that
Smirnoff.
Vaughn's.
What flavor?
Strawberry Hill.
Yeah.
Strawberry. Boone's Farm.
Yeah,
See, I'm a little
Yeah,
older.
I've had that too.
Strawberry wine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I took that first sip and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then the next night I went and I drank again. And then the next night I drank again and again and again. And
Oh,
it just
dude, you was on.
it turned into, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you was on. And then what was your drug of choice? How did that start?
Well, my drug of choice was heroin. It was kind of a long road getting there.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
that's where I ended up, and that's where I wanted to be once I got there. But I really, once I started drinking, then I started smoking weed, and then I did meth, and then I started doing PCP and Triple C, which is cough medicine.
Yeah.
Lean.
Yeah, no, that's codeine. Yeah,
Is that codeine?
No, this stuff you can go to CVS and get it right now.
All right, let's not tell anybody how to do it. It's homeless and addiction. Please disregard that. Disclaimer.
Yeah, so I would, you start out taking like 8 of these little pills, cough and cold medicine. Oh man, I'm tripping out, and then not slowly, it quickly evolved into me taking like 32 to 64 of these pills every day.
Dang,
my
dude.
God.
That's a lot.
And for about 2 years straight, every day I would take a minimum of 32 pills.
You still a teenager doing this?
Yeah, I was 16.
Oh my goodness.
And then we started, me and my buddy Jerry, he had moved in with me, and we were drugging, and we were basically turned my mom's garage into a chop shop. And we were just doing hood rat things.
Yeah.
And so my mom ended up kicking me out of the house.
Hood rat. I like that.
Yeah. My mom had enough of it. We put her through a lot.
You
so.
were a hood rat.
No, dude.
Go ahead.
We're talking about Paul.
Yeah. This isn't his interview.
Keep my name out your mouth.
My bad.
Yeah, so it quickly turned into a lot of drugs and crimes and stuff. And my mom kicked me out of my house. So my first experience of homelessness was at 16 years old.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that, man.
Who all knew? So your mom kicked you out.
Yeah, my mom
She
kicked me
knew.
out, and I didn't go straight to the streets.
Couches?
Yeah, I went to my buddy Ian's house, and Ian, he was the one that got me into all of the stuff. Like he was the one that I started drinking with him, and
Thanks,
then
Ian.
weed and meth, and so I was
Gateway
like,
person.
yeah,
Gateway person. Not a
wasn't-
gateway drug. It's a gateway person.
Yeah.
Hello, let me introduce
yeah,
you.
taught me how to steal and everything.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't like, were you guys bad together or were Ian just bad?
Oh, I mean, we weren't though.
Yeah. You're
Like
good
when I
people.
met Ian, we were both straight edge and normal people, and then I don't know what happened one day, man. We just,
Yeah.
I remember, we drank and that was cool. But I remember specifically, I had already been kicked out of the house, and we were sitting in his I was sitting in his room, and he was like, "Hey man, you want to smoke some weed?" And I'm like, "Yes, I know where to get it." And I called my buddy Mark. We met at across the street from the Huntington Beach police station, and I bought my
Nice.
first weed, man. And yeah,
There's special laws against like how close you can be to a
That's
elementary
schools,
school.
Yeah,
oh, it was
schools.
across the street from a high school too.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Both.
yeah, we were violating all
Just
the
trying to
laws.
do a couple of hits at once,
If I'm gonna go in for do some time, I'm gonna do some major
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta do it right, man.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you couch surfed for a minute.
Yeah. So from 16 to about 19, I was just drugging. I was just doing Triple C all the time, PCP, meth, whatever. It was just for a long time. And then somewhere along the lines, my mom let me come back to the house. I think I was 18 or 19. And I kind of got my stuff together for a little bit.
Good job.
I got a job at Oakley.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was there for about a year and a half, did really well. And, that whole time I was drinking and drugging, doing all that kind of stuff. And I think I was about 21. She left there. And when she moved, I wasn't able to go with her. I don't remember if she went to my sister's. Well, I wasn't able to go with her. So I had a job as a security guard at the time. So I went out and I moved into a house. All of my drugging buddies had a house that we call it the compound.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was a huge it was on like a 2-acre lot in the middle of Garden Grove, which anyone that's from California knows that's crazy. It's now a huge apartment complex. They knocked it down.
Oh yeah.
But it was this weird, huge property, and
That's
we
kinda
divided it up. There was about 8 different rooms. So I was security guard, moved out, started living there, and that's when I started getting into Xanax and OxyContin, the OC 80s. Those were the OC 80 times.
Yeah.
What's OC 80 mean?
OxyContin 80 milligram pill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
They
those
kept on, if you watch Dope Sick, it goes from 20 to 40.
Yeah,
to
there was
50,
10s,
people were getting
20s,
addicted.
yeah, yep.
So they started making 80 milligrams.
Yeah.
so
and
they-
it was really,
I think there was 160s too.
yeah, they may have,
Yeah.
I think they did go up to 160.
And these
but I'm not-
pills, you can do anything with them. You could shoot them up, you could smoke them off
Yeah.
foil, you could snort them. Like, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
knew what they
Yeah.
were doing.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. And how old were you? About 19.
Yeah, 19, 20. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How long were you on Oxy before you started the heroin?
So the thing with the Oxy, I would drink during the week,
Yeah.
but I would only really do drugs on the weekends, on my
Okay.
days off. So I would do Oxys and
You
do
felt like you
Xanax.
had it under control like that, right?
Yeah, well, I did. I never got sick or anything, and because I wasn't doing it every day, and I had friends that started doing it every day, and they started getting sick, and I'm like, hey, they're like, hey man, I'm real sick right now, this and that, and I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, I do drugs too, and I don't feel sick, and I don't have to go and get them, and I'm like, you guys, it's just in your head, Like I didn't think dope sickness was a real thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had some sort of ego about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is a thing.
Well, that
Oh,
comes
yeah.
back to your raising with two functional addicts, where you think, I got a hold on this, man. Mom,
Yeah. Well, that's how it was. Like,
It's
oh,
a
I could stop
deception.
anytime if I wanted. Because at that point, I
Yeah.
probably could have.
Yeah.
I really probably could have at that point. And at that point, I viewed heroin as disgusting.
Right.
And because I had friends that started doing heroin, I'm like, dude, that's gross, man. How would you ever do heroin as I'm,
Yeah.
smoking and snorting Oxy 80s.
Right.
But,
Wow.
with my pinky up. Heroin's
when you
gross.
crushed them, you had your
Yeah,
pinky
yeah.
out.
Yeah, you guys are gross. Yeah, and I did the oxys for a while, and it was never really an issue
Right.
until
How long that last?
I was about 2 years on and off. No, about a year when I lived there, and while I lived there, my buddy Matt, he was living in Hawaii with his girlfriend, and he was my best friend growing up.
Matt.
Yeah, Matt
Yeah.
Carr. And he moved to Hawaii.
Shout out.
R.I.P. buddy.
Yeah.
And he was living in Hawaii with his girlfriend. He had moved away. He started having some issues with her. So I called him up. I'm like, hey, bud, come on out. You can live in the house with us. Just move in and
Yeah.
you can have your life, And so he got here. Of course, we were doing drugs and stuff. He started selling drugs. There's drugs everywhere. Matt ended up overdosing and dying in that house, in the room. And
Sorry, Paul, man.
yeah, it sucked, man. But shortly after that, I moved out of there and I was living with my sister. And I just lost my train of thought.
You're trying to talk about, I think, where you ended up using,
Oh, heroin.
Heroin.
Yes, we're getting. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Matt had died.
but I
and-
mean, talking about Matt, I can see how you get kind of sidetracked. It's
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah. So, well, after Matt died, that's when I started doing oxys and Xanax a lot more, and I was just getting out of control, man. And I did overdose one night at my girlfriend Jesse's house.
Yeah.
They came, they had to revive me or whatever. I don't know if I honestly don't remember. I just remember fighting them.
Don't wake me up.
Yeah.
I'm dying.
Yeah, I woke up and I just remember fighting some paramedics, and then we
Wow.
get to the hospital, and I remember like ripping all my stuff. I was in my boxers, and I was
Yeah.
fighting with security guards at a hospital.
Wow.
That's all I really remember of it.
Wow.
So yeah, that happened. That continued for a while until Matt's sister one night. She had called me and she said, "Hey, can you take me over to Jenna's house? I need to get some heroin. I'm sick." And then it all came back to, "You're sick? What are you
Yeah.
talking about? You're sick, dude.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. I do drugs all the time." It came
Yeah.
back to that whole same thing. And she's like, "No, like you don't understand. Like, please just take me over there." So I ended up taking her over there. She gets some heroin. We go back to my house and she breaks out her foil, starts smoking it. And I was intrigued because I had never really seen heroin before. And she broke down a foil and she started chasing it. And smelled like Dr. Pepper and Chinese food. I was like, it smells kind of
What?
good. Yeah, I was like, man, this is cool.
Dr. Pepper and Chinese food.
I don't know if that's what I remember it smelling like. I was
wow.
like, I remember, oh,
That's
that's like Dr.
interesting.
Pepper, man. I want to try that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
and then so, yeah, she's like, oh, you want to try it? I'm like, yes, of course. And so I did it, and immediately, like all the, they say, oh, you get addicted the first night. No, that literally happened to me.
Really?
I took that first hit of heroin, and that was it. I was like, this
Wow.
is what I need to do for the rest of my life, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like that.
Wow, I'm sorry, man. Well, so I mean, at that time, you probably was like full of endorphins and everything. So
Yeah, yeah.
was
So I started doing heroin. I was living at my sister's at the time, and I was working at a weed clinic, a marijuana dispensary. And every day, so I started doing it, and I would go to work. I worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at the weed clinic. So I'd work all day. When I got off of work, I'd go to this girl's house, get heroin, go back home, just smoke until I pass out, wake up, do it again. And I did that every day for about a month and a half. And then one morning I woke up and I didn't feel good. And I had heroin, but I didn't want to do it. I was about to go to work. I'm like, that's like a nighttime thing.
yeah.
And I didn't even think about it. I just thought I had the flu or something. So I took some ecstasy so I would feel better at work, as you do.
What do you do? Like, go to your bathroom, and be like, man, what do I want today?
When you open up the
Ibuprofen.
open up the medicine chest, oxy,
Ecstasy.
ecstasy. Yeah,
that
let's
should
go to
do the
work.
trick.
Yeah.
Oh
It
wow,
did.
man.
And I went to work, and I was high and tripping out and feeling good, kind of, but I was still sick. And I was like, oh man, I got the flu or something. And Megan had actually called me that day, and I started explaining the situation. Like, I woke up just feeling pretty sick, and took some ecstasy, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll see you tonight. Cause she was over at the other homegirl's house. Like, oh, I need to see you tonight. And she's like, oh, okay, really, huh? So what are your symptoms? I started explaining, like,
man.
oh man, I just feel kind of like my muscles are kind of messed up, and like I feel like agitated, and like, I just feel weird. I got a runny nose. I can't stop sneezing and stuff. And she just started laughing.
Oh,
And I'm like,
dang.
what? And she's like, you're dope sick. And I'm like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? She's like, Paul, you're dope sick.
Yeah,
and I'm
I seen
like,
it.
that's not even a real thing,
Yeah.
And so even at this point, I'm dismissing it. And I get off work, go get some heroin. I go home, still feeling like crap.
Yeah.
The second I smoke it, I feel great. And I'm like, oh no, it's real.
Yeah.
This sickness thing they keep talking about, it's a real thing.
Right.
And by that time, it was too late. I was just, I'm going to
So
do
you
heroin.
just started chasing it.
Yeah.
And then you ended up on the street.
Yeah.
How
yeah.
much time from the time that you started smoking heroin
Mhm.
until you ended up like back and forth?
Yeah. So, I mean,
Wasn't too much long.
no, it wasn't very long. So, like I said, at the time I was living with my sister, started doing heroin. It was maybe 6 months, if that,
Wow.
until I had lost my job. And at that, I think I probably screwed up some stuff with my sister, probably robbed her or something in that time, and I got kicked out. So, and at that point, I don't even remember. I think I maybe went back to Ian's for a little bit.
Wow.
Ian was always kind of like a safe haven. His family always took me in, and his sister had gone away to college, so I lived in her room for a while. And
Okay.
so they always kind of took care of me in that sense.
Okay, good.
But yeah, then I went hardcore into drugs for the next
Yeah.
couple of years.
Wow.
Well, so we know drugs are bad.
Yeah.
So
Good job, Charlie.
when did you end
Say
up?
no.
Well, it's kind of hard to sit through those kind of stories.
Yeah,
I
it's-
know a lot. I know
it's
a lot
tough.
of people that have been through that, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you didn't start out to do this.
Yeah.
When did you end up? Where was you knew you were homeless and you didn't have a job and it was all about drugs? How you said it? Where would you end up? Huntington Beach, on the beach with
Yeah.
a tent or?
No, I never had a tent. So throughout my whole homelessness, I had my motorcycle. So I always was able to get around. I had got a motorcycle when I was 15 I'm not going to incriminate myself. But
Oh, yeah. That's probably
I
good
got a
idea.
motorcycle when I was 15.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so I had a motorcycle, so I was always able to get around and stuff. So I would, I just started sleeping on the beach. Really, that's where I would end up a lot of the times. Or I started just selling a little bit so that I can like use people for their houses. Like, hey man, I'll give you some dope and let me stay at your house kind of thing.
Yeah.
So did that for a while. And then, of course, you know, that doesn't always end up the greatest because you can't be getting high on your own supply. So, you know, that didn't really work too
Isn't that
much.
the
So-
first rule?
Yeah, right.
I mean, like Biggie's
Biggie
like,
said it, man.
yeah, Biggie said that there was some drug rules. for
There's some
selling
rules, man. I
drugs.
didn't follow
Yeah.
it. I
Don't
didn't
get
follow
high
any
on
of them.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Terrible drug dealer.
it quickly turned into me thieving and whatnot. There was a bunch of things I was doing for money, but it was mostly all stealing.
Okay.
Yep. I was Walmart, wherever, robbing stuff from people and whatnot. So
So did you ever end up down in what's it called down in L.A.
Skid Row?
Skid Row?
No, I didn't live in there, but I lived near it.
Yeah.
When I was staying with my buddy, he lived near it, and then I was.
I
Kind
would
of
think you wouldn't want to go there because you're like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? No, I'm better than that.
When I was
I'm gonna sleep
homeless-
on Huntington Beach.
Yeah, well, I didn't like hanging around with people, man, because
Yeah.
people can steal your stuff. Like I was a lone wolf. If all I had was my backpack and my motorcycle, if it didn't fit in my backpack or in my motorcycle, I didn't keep it.
So that's real common around people that are homeless and addicted is the isolation.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It's addicting in itself.
yeah.
Yeah. Isolation's addicting. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's crazy.
Well, and I really
You don't want to be around anybody, and then when
Yeah.
you do get, my experience from watching it is you get high, and then you want to be around people a little bit, but otherwise
yeah.
you're good.
Yeah. Well, especially with heroin. I mean, it's not really a drug that you want to do around people. You know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of. I just want to go nod out somewhere. That was my
Yeah.
whole goal. If I wasn't nodding out, then it was I was a waste of my time. So
Wow.
that's where I wanted to be. So I'd usually just get my stuff and then go find a spot I can be comfortable at or wherever.
You're a miracle, bro.
Yeah, no doubt,
Seriously.
man. That you're sitting here. When was the first time that you're on the beach or you're on a street corner and you're an addict and you know life stinks? When was the first time a Christian or somebody walked up and cold called you to say, "What are you doing with your life?" When was the first time you were like, "Wow"?
Ooh, that's a good question.
So it's interesting. And in my addiction, I would end up at churches a lot. And it's funny because during my whole addiction, I wasn't atheist, but agnostic, I guess. I didn't believe in necessarily a God. And I definitely didn't think that a God could do anything for me. But I ended up at churches a lot.
Wow.
And there was this little church in my neighborhood that I grew up in. It was, I don't know the name of it, but half of the time it was a Spanish church. And then the other time it was like English speaking church. And I used to go and I'd sleep in the little
It's
cubby.
a Spanglish church.
Yeah, Spanglish.
Yeah. It's kind of like Cypress Hill.
Dude, they had a sick drummer, man. He was good.
Oh, I like that. Hill.
but,
I didn't know who they are.
Oh, good job,
They
John.
had this cubby, like kind of cutaway thing. It was where you could go in and there's a door there, but there's like a whole huge slab and it's covered.
Uh-huh.
So I would sleep there most nights. And I woke up one morning to, there was this Mexican gentleman. He was waking me up and he started asking me, he's like, like, what's going on, man? He woke me up. He had a cup of coffee and he started talking to me and I just told him my situation. And he said, hey man, Jesus loves you. And he gave me $20 and I was like, sweet, I can go get high. And, and that's how I took
Reality.
it. But that was the first time that I can remember a Christian coming up to me and showing me some love.
That's cool.
Yeah. Shout out to that guy, man.
Shout out.
I don't know who you are or where you're at, but I appreciate you, man.
Did you ever, when you were homeless, did you ever use treatment to get off the streets and get a break?
Yeah. Or jail. Yeah.
Jail?
Yeah. Jail.
Did you put that on your application?
I think so.
Was it Folsom Prison in California, right?
Folsom's in Northern California.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty far from where I'm at. I never went to prison, but
I'm familiar with people, they'll go just to get a break. You get into a program for 30 days.
no, that wasn't really me. The first time I went to rehab and detox was at I don't remember the name of it, but they closed it now. Oh, Rock Center. Yeah, it was called the Rock Center. It was in Garden Grove. And the very first time I went there, it was a non-medical detox. So you just go there and sweat it out for 7 days. And after that, I got into their program. And I got the nudge from the judge on that one. So I had done a robbery and I got locked up. And it was either go to jail or go to rehab. And honestly, I thought about going to jail because it was only 30 days of jail or a 90-day program. So I was like, but at that point, I just felt like I had to do better.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, man, I've never tried rehab. Why not?
Try it.
Couldn't hurt, right?
Yeah.
You know, like if I can change my life around, cool. So I went there.
You knew you had to have changed by this time.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You were like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because when I went there, I was homeless, living on the streets in and around Westminster. So yeah, I was like, I need somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Because my mom and my sister wouldn't let me at their house at that point. I had burned those bridges. So that was also or I was living with Ian at the time, actually. Yeah, I was staying with Ian on and off.
Yeah.
So I ended up over there at Rock Center, and I got in there, and I went through the steps in 30 days. But it was this guy that took me through the steps, obviously, whoever taught him, like, he was like, step 1, are you powerless? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, duh, I'm in rehab. And he's like, okay, step 2, you know, like,
I love that.
yeah. Yeah.
You do all 11 steps in the first set.
Yep.
You're going to be all right.
Yep.
You're going to
exactly.
be all right.
And,
go to a meeting.
Yep. 90 and 90. You know, and so I'm stuck. I'm not stuck in this rehab,
steps,
and I go. The steps changed my life eventually.
Yeah, they did.
But that first time, that was my first introduction to the steps. You know, my 5th step, he's like, write down your life story on a piece of paper, and then I go and he's like, now read it to me, and I read it to him, and he's like, okay, step 6, and I was like, okay, like, is this okay? Cool. And then by the end of it, I was sponsoring a dude. I had never even opened the big book once.
Okay, and, so those of us that are a little not so clueful, or we're clueless, the 12 steps take a little bit more effort, is what you're trying to say?
There's a lot more that goes into it.
Instead of just like, hey, okay.
Yeah.
Were you homeless when you were going to AA?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was living in the treatment center. And that point, once I was in the treatment center, my sister came back in my life. My mom came back into my life. And
that's cool.
My sister ended up getting me a really good job doing.
Way to go, sis.
Yeah, dude, she always hooks me up.
She does.
She got me
We've met her.
Yeah,
she came here.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, I met her.
And she got me a job doing traffic control, which is the people that close down the roads and put up the signs and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
The people you see just standing around.
Oh, yeah.
I did that for the city of Columbus, and I think it was the Colt 45 patrol.
Yep.
You're incriminating all your workers that you work with. They're probably all gone.
They're all gone.
What was that, the 30s?
1947. Thank you very much. So when did you really that just hurt my feelings?
I'm sorry.
I don't know what to say about that. But so now, when did you? I know you've got some time sober. Was you just tired of being tired, and then you got into recovery advocacy, or?
So that came later. I did that 90 days there. Didn't really get much out of it. Actually, on my 91st day when I got out, I celebrated by going and getting drunk. I was like, hey, man, because at that time I thought, hey, man, as long as I'm not doing heroin and meth, I'm sober.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I was just drinking all the time. And that first night I got, really drunk, and it was dumb. But I was right back into it. But the thing that happened is 2 months after I got out of there, my mom died. And I was a mama's boy. And I didn't know that my mom was dying, because as she was dying, she knew how I was, and she knew that I'd freak out and go get high. So she kept it a secret from me. And it just came out of nowhere. I mean, I kind of put the clues together. But it was one of those things where it's like, if I don't pay it any attention, or if I don't look at it, it's not happening kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Like I could look back at it now and say like, dude, I did know. But at the time I feel like I didn't, because I kind of tuned it out.
Well, your mom would be proud of you now.
Yeah.
She would be.
That's good.
She would be really proud of you.
She at least got to see me get that 90 days sober.
Yeah.
Wasn't really sober, but she saw me kind of get my stuff together. Yeah. But after she died was when I really, really that's when I went downhill. That's when that's when I was straight up on the streets for real, like homeless. Went really hard.
Where was the worst place, or what was the worst place you ended up sleeping when you were homeless?
I never really slept in too many bad of places. I mean, I would always just sleep in a park.
Like I always think if I had to sleep outside, there's a couple places I would crawl into. I've thought about it enough now. One of the places I've thought about, even though, because I think everybody romanticizes about this in movies, they sleep in dumpsters.
Yeah.
Like, because there's trash and it's kind of soft. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I would
But-
never do that.
You know where you could sleep is one of those clothing bins.
Oh, yeah. No,
Oh,
heard
that's Dan.
Dan did that. Yeah.
Dan.
Oh, yeah.
And
See, 'cause it's all
Nybrand.
soft in there.
Yeah.
No, so, and the thing is with California, it's like always 75 and sunny.
That's
so,
true.
I mean, literally you could sleep anywhere and it's cool. So
Yeah.
I would sleep in churches, in parks, but mainly the beach. I knew if I could get to the beach, I could go and sleep down in the sand because there is a curfew at the beach from like midnight to 5 a.m.
Right.
But there's walls all across Huntington Beach. There's these little like 3-foot walls that cover the whole beach. So as long as you would just go on the other side of
Yeah, I know what you're
the
talking about.
wall, duck down there, and just people wouldn't mess with you. So,
Yeah, okay.
so it was really, I mean, it was awesome, man. I woke up to the ocean every morning.
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then you end up being director of outreach at Metro Relief.
Yeah.
What do you find that?
How's that happen?
Yeah, how it's amazing how you ended up here. But I would think a benefit in doing street outreach is your experience and mine. Sometimes it helps us see when somebody really doesn't want to help, but we still help them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can always, like, we meet at the end of the day and you're like, well, I met these 3 people and this guy, he'll take it. But, sometimes when I say to people that don't understand what we do, I'll say, I don't think they're ready, but we're going to get them an ID. What do you mean they are not ready?
Yeah.
Did that make any sense?
I think so. What do you think, Paul? Like, because you've been on both sides now.
Yeah. So I have a really good gauge of that because
Yeah.
I've been there, and I know I can usually tell when somebody's just trying to get something or when somebody's actually ready. And that's the unfortunate thing is some people will never be ready. It's sad.
Yeah.
Some people will lose their life before they're ever ready.
It's kind of,
That's one thing that I was thinking about the other day is like they say in AA, I think they say when you hit the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Well, if sleeping outside and pooping next to your tent ain't the bottom of the barrel,
Well, it wasn't for me.
what but what is it then?
I don't know. My
know what I
bottom
mean?
of the barrel came when I had a beautiful house that I was living in. I had a nice car. I was living in Louisiana. I had everything on the outside that you could think that I
Yeah.
would have. I had really cool car, nice house, nice things. Like if on outwards, like if you looked at my Instagram, I had the best life ever, but those other 23 hours.
social
and-
media, the great illusion.
yeah, the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of the day, I'm locked in my room trying to kill myself and depressed. And I think it just really came down to because I wanted to die and I couldn't die. So I'm like, what am I doing here, man?
Yeah.
I don't really know. Well, I got the nudge kind of. I did some things and I got in some trouble. And my sister reached out. My sister had been reaching out to me for a while because once I moved to Louisiana, I was good for a couple years and then I relapsed and I was just stealing from my family. I was being terrible. So my sister would always reach out like, hey, man, when you're ready, I can get you into detox because she was running the detox in Lancaster at the hospital down there. And she's like, just give me a call. Let me know. And I had gotten in trouble. I was kind of on the run a little bit. And of course, first call, hey, sister, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I wasn't really.
Especially since it's out of state.
Exactly. It's like at that point, I was still just escaping consequences.
So your sister is a big influence on you.
Yeah, huge.
And you guys are pretty tight, aren't you?
Yeah.
Did she ever struggle with what you struggled with?
Never. No.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So she's pretty much the only person in our family that wasn't some sort of alcoholic or drug addict. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you would tell someone what do you tell someone when they meet you and they say, oh, well, I gave the homeless guy on the corner. What would you tell someone to do if they wanted to help somebody homeless in DFW area?
If you want to help somebody, I would suggest just going out and talking to people. Get to know somebody. Go out when you see that guy out on the street corner with his sign. Go park your car and just go across the street and talk to this guy.
Yeah.
See what he's all about, and you'd
Yeah.
be surprised of how many similarities there are between you and that man that are on the street.
Yeah,
I think that's the first place to start.
it's good.
Yeah.
What should they, what do you think, Austin? You got
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, I'm just amazed that he's still here. I mean, that you went through all
That's
that.
the reason, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Lord is good.
It's really crazy to think about all the things that did happen and could have happened while you were outside, and it's kind of a miracle.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%. There's only one reason I'm here. It's because of God.
That's awesome.
100%.
So do you think, on a percentage wise, how many people out there are addicted that are sleeping outside?
Oh, I want to say close to 90%.
Yeah.
And then the rest are straight mental illness. And then a part of that 90% is also mental illness and drugs.
Yeah.
Most people that are out on the streets are addicted to something. A lot of them are.
Do you feel like the addiction drives people to the street?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Do you feel like that most of the people that are outside, you said 90% are addicted. Do you think most of the people that are outside are driven there by their addiction?
100%. Yeah, because that's how it goes. When you start off having fun, and then it turns into, I need this. And then when it comes down to rent or drugs, you choose drugs, you lose your house. Then you're out on the streets. And then it comes down to food or drugs, you choose drugs. At least for me, I started stealing food. I never paid for food.
Yeah.
Any money I had went to drugs. So 100% of
Everything.
time. Yeah, everything. And that was just chasing that forever. And that's where it takes you, because you can't, when you're on drugs, you can't prioritize anything other than drugs. And especially when you're on something like heroin or Xanax or whatever, that's alcohol, something that's physically addicting, you kind of get trapped, because even if you want to stop, you stop. And then you get sick. And especially for alcoholics and Xanax people, if they just stop, they can die.
Yeah. So why give your life away to help people that are addicted on the street? Why are you doing that? Because you could do other stuff. I mean, you're a good, capable person. You got a good head on your shoulders. You could do other stuff.
Yeah.
And you're choosing to work here and do what we do.
Yeah. So I think it comes down to what I was saying before, is the hopelessness, man. I need people to know that they can live differently.
That's
because
cool.
I spent so long. I spent so long thinking that, like, I wanted, like, that was my destiny. I was gonna die in a ditch. That was my destiny, and I wanted it. I didn't want to live to 30, and then 30 came around, and I'm like, oh, geez, I'm still here.
You're an old man now.
Yeah,
that's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
you didn't want to live.
No, I did not. No, 100%.
So really, you're here to help people have hope.
Yeah. Yep.
You're a hope dealer.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. There's T-shirts.
Yeah.
Makes me think of
100%,
some people
man. That's what I just, because I know how hopeless I was, and I want people to know that there is hope, man. No matter what.
That's what drives us to help people. I mean, Brian, the guy that Austin met in February under the bridge, and then Dawson Street.
That dude's hopeless, man.
He's hopeless, man, and his story is incredible. But Austin met him. And then you saw him, and we have taken him in the last 6 weeks 3 times to detox.
Yep.
And we'll take him again if he calls us.
Anytime, man. Yep.
If he calls us, well, I had a friend say, well, you're going to keep on taking him? I said, yeah, if we can save this dude's life and he gets a shot, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, because it doesn't
it's cool how you have that drive to do that you go out of your way.
Well, because you never know when it's going to be the time that it's going to stick. And for you to deny someone of that, that's not right.
He wants it. And
he wants
it. It seems like what you're saying, I mean, he wants it really bad, but he is compelled to continue to put alcohol in his gut.
He's stuck. Yeah. He needs to.
He's young, too.
Yeah. I think he's 42 or something.
Yeah.
42.
Yeah.
I remember when I picked him up the second, I don't know, one of those times, and you were out, and he got out of bed. He had a plan, he had cigarettes, and he said, all I can think about is beer. And we were just walking out.
Well, I mean, when you look where he was sleeping on a dirt sidewalk under a bridge surrounded by trash and trash cans. And when you wake up in that environment and you want to do better with your life, it's hard, because when you look around you, all you see is hopelessness. All you see around you is dirt, drugs, alcohol. You're surrounded by it. And it's way easier to do the easy thing, which is just get high or get drunk again, and to escape it, or just keep it going. It's the hard thing to not, that's the hardest part, is to not. So when you're waking up in that environment every day, it's hard not to choose.
Reminds me of that song Johnny Cash sings, "Hurt."
let's ask another question. I just saw a question that Austin had written down. What do you believe are the keys to success when it comes to eradicating homelessness? I stole your question.
Oh, well, it's a multifaceted problem. There's a lot of moving parts with homelessness. Addiction is just one of them. There's trauma, there's childhood trauma, there's mental illness, which is a huge one. There's no mental health anymore, mental health help for people. We need to tackle it from all angles. There needs to be more mental health awareness and education and resources, and then there needs to be more addiction resources and help and education. I think if we nailed those two, we could eliminate a lot of homelessness.
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
and then also with trauma and stuff like that, if we can get more people into therapy and more people willing to talk about their mental illness, I think society's driving in a way to where mental illness is it's not so taboo anymore.
Yeah.
A lot more people are starting to come around, and it's a great thing because it's definitely needed. So I think if we tackle addiction, we tackle
and we kept staring at me, dude.
Yeah, I know, man.
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness, education, definitely education, because a lot of people, especially with addiction, they don't understand.
Yeah.
They think that person is choosing to do that. Once you're addicted and you're to that point, you don't have a choice. You're on autopilot. You got to do what you got to do. And there's a million times where I'm like, I don't want to do this, but you do it anyways.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's literally it's insanity.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And if you've never been addicted, you don't understand that. And it's just kind of like, hey, look at this guy's messing up his whole life, throwing his family away. He's got a beautiful family, beautiful job. None of that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm addicted to sugar. I love it. I'm peanut butter, and specifically, not pacifically, and I eat it in the middle of the night. The other day, my wife challenged me for 10 days to go without sugar.
Wow.
So
how'd you do?
I did all right, but in the
Is
middle,
that why there's no sugar here anymore?
dude, I don't know, dude, in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was like I was sleepwalking, bro. It's like a cartoon. I was just like going towards the fumes, and I got to the peanut butter, and I like opened it and ate it. And it wasn't until after I ate it, I was like, I'm not supposed to have sugar. But I still took one more little bite.
Yeah, and then you gently put the lid back on and put it back in the cupboard the way it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the wrapper back on.
No, I did though. And the next, I tried to
Wrapped
get
it.
all this peanut butter off that spoon, so I licked it
I
clean.
want to know
But she
if
still
it is
knew
a cereal spoon or the tablespoon.
the big one, bro.
The big
That's what
one,
I'm
man.
talking
Yeah,
about,
I know,
man. Got to go hard on
But
peanut butter.
we didn't have any jelly, so I put some honey on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway,
Next best thing, man.
I didn't go 10 days without eating sugar. I mean, I would sporadically. I was thinking that addiction, even just to that little bit,
look
it
at your
don't kill
phone.
me.
Your phone. Go a day without picking up your phone.
Dude, I can
try
go a
to
long time without my phone.
Well, for anyone out there,
No, I'm just joking.
take about
That's
say,
true.
hey, I'm not going to look at or touch my phone for even 6 hours. The second you put that up, dude, you're like, oh, I got to check my email and Facebook
Yeah.
Think about it, man.
If you were like Charlie, you would just lose it once a day and you'd be better. No,
Yeah,
that's me.
Our culture is very compulsive.
Yeah, it's getting that way.
Everybody, want
Instant
it now,
gratification.
instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's a big deal that you shared today. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
all.
doing what you're doing now.
Yeah,
It's a
thank you
big
guys.
deal.
Thank you guys for allowing me to do what I'm doing,
Yeah, of
man.
course.
I love this, and thank you for creating Metro Relief and
Yes, sir.
giving us a platform to help people off the streets, man. It's a huge thing.
It's a good thing to see you giving back. I mean, we were just talking to somebody the other day that, they've been there, but they don't want to give back now. That police officer guy.
Yeah,
And I was just thinking,
yeah, that's so weird.
there is a few of them.
yeah,
They're almost like, I made it. Why ain't you trying harder kind of thing.
yeah,
That's a whole,
So I
Yeah.
just feel like, it's a big deal to get over whatever that hump is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard another person put it like they don't want to be around homeless people anymore once they're not homeless.
Yeah.
Because it brings back bad memories and stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you for doing it. It's a big deal. Thanks for sharing your story, your addiction story, and just the people. I can almost see them. That house with 2 acres and Ian. Thanks for sharing, bro.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
We love you.
We love you, man. Appreciate
out.
you.
Like what you heard? Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Our team will respond to any questions you have. This podcast depends on support from its viewers, and if you want to get directly involved, join Metro Relief as a donor or volunteer at metrorelief.org.